In Hollywood's golden age, glamour and secrecy went hand in hand. Were some iconic actresses of the 1930s, 40s, and 50s, the very symbols of femininity, secretly born male? In this sensational journey, we explore 10 legends who rose to stardom amid speculation about their gender at birth. Stay with us till the end, subscribe to the channel, and press the bell icon for more thrilling information. 1. Christine Jorgensen. In December 1952, Americans were astonished by front-page news of Christine Jorgensen, a former soldier who had transitioned from male to female. Born George Jorgensen, Jr., she had been a shy Bronx youth and Army draftee. Yearning to live authentically, she traveled to Denmark for groundbreaking sex reassignment surgeries in 1951. When she returned to New York in 1953, a media frenzy erupted. Reporters and photographers swarmed the airport, even ignoring Danish royalty on the same flight to catch a glimpse of Christine. The New York Daily News ran the sensational headline, "XGI becomes blonde beauty, cementing her as an instant celebrity." Christine's rise was meteoric. The polished, witty blonde became a nightclub singer and actress, using her platform to advocate for transgender people. Audiences packed venues out of curiosity and admiration. In one appearance, she quipped to the crowd, "Remember, I didn't cut anything. I added," a bold, cheeky reference to her surgery that showed her disarming humor. Newspapers dubbed her the sex-change celebrity, and she was even offered a movie contract. Though Hollywood's promise never fully materialized, she did star as herself in a fictionalized biopic later. Rumors swirled that studios were quietly reviewing their rosters. Could any starlets have a past like Christine's? It was pure speculation, but it spoke to the public fascination she ignited. Jorgensen had tapped into a post-war curiosity about the boundaries of gender. Of course, living openly as a trans woman in the 1950s was perilous. Christine faced intrusive questions and occasional ridicule. Yet she handled it with grace, saying she was happy to be herself at last. Why did she risk everything to change gender? As she explained in interviews, she had always felt out of place as a boy and simply wanted her body to align with her identity. Society's pressures were immense, but Christine's success and poise under scrutiny made her a kind of folk heroine. Some even credit her with emboldening others to transition in secret. If an ordinary XGI could transform into a poised starlet, perhaps the Hollywood Dream Factory had its own gender-bending stories quietly playing out. Christine's name became synonymous with transformation, and she remained in the public eye for decades, publishing an autobiography and touring on the lecture circuit. In the end, fact and rumor merged into legend. The GI turned glamour girl who opened America's eyes and, in doing so, made the world wonder how many other Christines were hiding in plain sight in Hollywood's golden age. 2nd April, Ashley elegant and statuesque. April Ashley dazzled 1960s high society. A model-turned-socialite who rubbed shoulders with royalty. But behind her grace and haute couture gowns lay a closely guarded truth. She was born a boy named George in working-class Liverpool. April's early life was marked by struggle with her identity. As George Jameson, she served in the Merchant Navy and even endured electroshock therapy in a desperate bid to feel normal. Nothing worked, so in 1960, at age 25, she boldly went to Casablanca for sex reassignment surgery, one of the first Britons to do so. "Finally, I was going to be a real woman, inside and out," she later said of that life-changing operation. Afterwards, April Ashley emerged as a stunning woman with patrician manners. With her raven hair, aristocratic profile, and transatlantic accent, she reinvented herself as a fashion model in London. Photographers like David Bailey and Terence Donovan adored her poise. She even landed a small role in the 1962 film The Road to Hong Kong, starring Bing Crosby and Bob Hope. It seemed April was on the cusp of a charmed celebrity life. She married the Honorable Arthur Corbett, becoming a society darling, a commoner turned countess in all but title. Yet the risks she faced were enormous. In conservative mid-century Britain, being transgender was deeply taboo. April's career and marriage hung on secrecy. The secrecy unraveled in 1961. A jealous friend sold April's story to the press for a mere £5. Suddenly, tabloids blared that the glamorous model was born a man. The revelation was a sensation and a catastrophe for April. Her film credit was swiftly dropped to avoid scandal. Modeling contracts vanished overnight. High society friends grew scarce. Worst of all, her husband sought to annul their marriage, leading to a 1970 court case that cruelly invalidated her as a woman in the eyes of English law. Through it all, April Ashley persevered with remarkable dignity. When asked why she had risked the surgery and its fallout, she remarked simply that living a lie was unbearable. "I risked my life to become my true self, and never regretted it." April's saga captivated the public. The very idea that a peeress, a member of the nobility, could be transgender was both shocking and intriguing. People devoured news of the boy who became a baron's wife, mixing sympathy with salacious curiosity. Did her transformation aid her success, or nearly ruin it? In truth, both. April's striking beauty and bravery made her a pioneer, admired by some as a trailblazer. But the betrayal and resulting scandal also robbed her of the career she deserved. Decades later, attitudes softened, and she would be hailed as a transgender icon. In the 1960s, however, April Ashley lived a real-life melodrama of secrecy and revelation. Her name became synonymous with the era's hidden transgender stories, a living proof that behind Hollywood's and high society's facades, such transformations were very real. Even as fact, her story had all the suspense of a silver screen mystery, and it fueled countless rumors that other polished debutantes or actresses might be concealing similar pasts. 3. Candy Darling. By night, New York's underground films flickered with a new kind of star, a tall, ethereal blonde named Candy Darling. She exuded old Hollywood glamour, channeling Jean Harlow and Kim Novak. Yet Candy was not a studio-manufactured actress, but a self-made woman born as James Slattery in 1944. Growing up on Long Island, Candy spent her youth mesmerized by classic films on TV. She would imitate silver screen sirens in the mirror, dreaming of escaping into their world. In the 1960s, that dream, in a twisted way, came true. Candy transitioned in her late teens, reinventing herself with a breathy voice, platinum hair, and a name as sweet as her persona. She became a fixture in Andy Warhol's art scene, the ultimate cause célèbre of gender mystery. Warhol cast Candy in his avant-garde films, where her presence was both poignant and provocative. In movies like Flesh and Women in Revolt, Candy played the vamp, the society woman, the femme fatale, always with a knowing wink. Audiences in smoky art house theaters were entranced and puzzled. Who was this glamour girl, delivering campy lines with such allure? Some surely whispered, "That's a man," while others insisted she was the real deal, a woman and a star. Warhol, ever the provocateur, didn't clarify. The ambiguity was part of the allure. Candy's fame grew beyond the underground. Lou Reed immortalized her in his hit song, Walk on the Wild Side, singing, "Candy came from out on the island." She shaved her legs, and then he was a she. Lyrics that matter-of-factly described her gender transition and immortalized her bravery. In an era when gender variance was rarely spoken of, Candy boldly lived hers on stage and screen. Why would someone in that era change gender and chase stardom? For Candy, it was the fulfillment of identity and a path to fame she craved. The late 60s counterculture provided a niche where a transgender woman could shine, albeit at the fringes. Still, she faced enormous risks. Mainstream Hollywood was closed to someone like her. Candy thus became a downtown legend instead, hosting cabaret nights and mingling with artists and musicians who accepted her. The public fascination with her was intense. She had the elegance of a Golden Age movie queen and the edginess of the late 60s, a combination that made her a cult figure. Magazines ran features on Warhol's transvestite superstar, blurring terminology, even as they marveled at her looks and wit. Candy played up the mystery. She'd tease interviewers with lines like, "I am a mystery wrapped in an enigma, wrapped in a pink chiffon gown." Indeed, she wanted to keep people guessing. Despite the hurdles, Candy's career was successful on its own terms. She brought transgender visibility to pop culture, becoming a pioneer for transgender visibility with a genuine fan following. Even some Hollywood luminaries took note. The great silent film star, Gloria Swanson, once attended Candy's funeral and poignantly saluted her coffin as if passing the torch to a new kind of star. Candy's life had a tragic brevity. She died of lymphoma in 1974 at just 29. On her deathbed, she wrote a wistful note. "I am just so bored by everything, you might say bored to death." It was a final act as dramatic as any role she played. In death, Candy became even more mythic, a symbol of the secret lives and bold transformations that Hollywood's mainstream rarely acknowledged. Her success, albeit in underground cinema, proved that a gender transformation could become the making of a star, not just a hurdle. To an audience titillated by mystery, Candy's very existence posed a question. How many other screen goddesses might have stories as wild as hers? In the shadows of the Golden Age, Candy's legend gleams, a blend of fact and fabulation that keeps fans guessing and inspired to this day. Fourth, Coccinelle. Across the Atlantic, Paris, in the 1950s, had its own transgender sensation, Coccinelle. Born Jacques Dufresnoy in 1931, she grew up knowing she was different. "As a boy of 4, I knew I was a girl, really, but nobody could see it," she later confessed. In the City of Light's vibrant cabaret scene, Jacques blossomed into Jacqueline. Adopting the stage name Coccinelle after wearing a red and black polka dot dress to a party, she became a showgirl at the famed Le Carrousel de Paris, a nightclub renowned for its troupe of glamorous transgender performers. Audiences were spellbound by Coccinelle's beauty and voice, unaware, or perhaps tantalizingly aware, that she had been assigned male at birth. In 1958, news quietly spread that Coccinelle had traveled to Casablanca for sex reassignment surgery. She later recalled the moment with joy. "Finally, I was going to be a real woman in perfect harmony, inside and out. Dr. Barreau rectified the mistake of nature." This made her the first French person known to undergo such a procedure, and it caused a stir in European media. But, more remarkably, Coccinelle stepped back on stage post-surgery and resumed her career with even greater success. Her transformation wasn't hidden in shame. It became part of her mystique. She dyed her hair platinum blonde, perfected an irresistibly feminine image, and soon ventured into film. Coccinelle appeared in movies like Europa di Notte and Los Viciosos, playing herself or roles that traded on her nightclub glamour. Though these were niche films, they earned her a following and proved she truly could act and entertain as the woman she always knew she was. Societal pressures in mid-century France were immense. Being openly transgender meant risking arrest or worse. Yet Coccinelle navigated these perils with courage. In 1960, she achieved a personal milestone that was also a public statement. She married a French journalist in a church wedding, reportedly the first trans woman in Europe to have a religious marriage. The event made headlines and further stoked public fascination. How audacious, people thought, that this glamorous chanteuse, who used to be Jacques, was now a blushing bride in white. As one magazine put it, from soldier to showgirl to madame, conflating some facts, but capturing the sensational spirit. Fans flocked to her shows, some out of genuine admiration, others out of prurient curiosity. Why did she change gender? Coccinelle explained simply that it was about living authentically and correcting nature's error. In an era when such feelings had few outlets, she found freedom on stage, where performing as a woman felt as natural as breathing. Coccinelle's fame extended beyond France. She toured internationally, even performing for surprised audiences in countries where a transgender star was unheard of. Wherever she went, mystery trailed her. Some skeptics in the 1950s audience might squint and search for a telltale trace of masculinity. An Adam's apple, a deeper register in her singing. They largely found nothing but an elegant lady with a seductive French allure. Indeed, her career thrived because of the transformation. She was unique, and that made her a box office draw. She later used her platform to advocate for transgender people, founding an association to support others seeking gender alignment. But in the Golden Age, she remained an enigmatic figure who blurred the line between rumor and reality. Was Coccinelle truly once a man? The answer was yes, but packaged in feathers and sequins and presented with such charm that many forgot the question entirely. Her success story, from cabaret to film to wedded bliss, gave hope that one could transition and still have it all. Little wonder that Hollywood gossip mills occasionally mused if any Tinseltown starlets had taken a page from Coccinelle's book. In truth, none had quite her story. She was one of a kind, the ladybug who transformed and taught Europe to marvel at the beauty of metamorphosis. 5. Katharine Hepburn. With her patrician cheekbones, fiery personality, and razor-sharp wit, Katharine Hepburn was the very model of an independent woman in Hollywood. She smashed conventions by wearing trousers both on-screen and off, a simple fashion choice that was downright scandalous in the 1930s. Hepburn's androgynous style and insistence on living life on her own terms set tongues wagging. Decades before the term transgender was in common use, some wondered, did Katharine Hepburn really want to be a man? In a deeply closeted era, her rejection of traditional femininity sparked endless speculation about her gender and sexuality. She cut her hair short, eschewed makeup, and spoke with a forthright Yankee drawl, all of which fueled rumors. A 1935 box office flop de la suya fueled rumors about Hepburn's sexuality. Notes one biographer. Soon gossip columns were buzzing that Katharine was unnatural, code at the time for queer or otherwise non-conforming. In truth, Hepburn was likely bisexual, but there's no evidence she believed herself male. Yet intriguingly, Hepburn did embody a masculine alter ego throughout her life. She nicknamed herself Jimmy as a teenager and often referred to herself with male pronouns in conversation. According to biographer William Mann, she really felt more comfortable living as a boy. She often thought of herself as a man. Friends from her school days recalled that while other girls eventually grew out of their tomboy phases, Kate never did. She'd say things like, "I'm the man of the house," or "I'm the best guy for the job," revealing how she internally embraced a male persona. This fascinating aspect of Hepburn's identity was little known to the public then, but it certainly manifested in her no-nonsense, athletic image. She wore slacks on studio lots when other actresses were in frilly dresses, prompting one famous incident where Louis B. Mayer locked away her pants. Hepburn responded by walking around in her underwear until they were returned. Such stories only fed the legend that she hated being a girl. In an era when studios carefully crafted stars' images, Hepburn's defiance created an aura of mystery. The public was both shocked and enthralled. Some fans loved her for breaking the rules. Others were suspicious of her mannish independence. Rumors ranged from her being secretly lesbian to outlandish whispers that Hepburn might be intersex or really a man in disguise. Such talk was confined to hushed tones. A superstar like Hepburn could not be openly questioned without backlash. Still, Hollywood circles knew that she lived unconventionally. Her long, companion relationships with women were an open secret. Hepburn never had children and famously never dressed or behaved like a maternal domestic woman, a rarity among her peers. Did these traits help or hinder her success? In many ways, they made her a star. She stood out brilliantly from the cookie-cutter starlets. Audiences flocked to see the strong-willed Katharine Hepburn, who could hold her own with any man on screen. Her masculine energy was part of her charisma. Yet, the intrigue remained. One 1940s fan magazine hinted, "There's something different about Kate, something she's not telling us," letting readers fill in the subtext. Hepburn's lifelong love affair with Spencer Tracy was touted to quell gossip. But even that was unorthodox. They never married, and some believe it was a cover for truths about both. In our sensational narrative, we imagine a shadowy possibility. Katharine Hepburn as a trans man avant la lettre, navigating women's roles only as an act. While there's no factual basis that she was transgender, her psychological gender bending was real and extraordinary for her time. Perhaps that's why the speculation clung to her. She emanated a gender fluidity that people sensed but couldn't name. In a 1980s interview, Hepburn addressed the long-standing rumors with characteristic aplomb. "I've worn trousers so long, I've forgotten how to wear skirts. If that makes me a mythical man, so be it. I don't give a damn." Thus, the legend endures. Katharine Hepburn, Hollywood's secret gentleman, whose identity was as much a masterpiece as her 4 Oscar-winning performances. 6. Greta Garbo. "I want to be alone," Greta Garbo's characters famously declared, and in real life, the reclusive Garbo lived out that mantra, cloaked in mystery. This Swedish-born star had an almost otherworldly androgyny that entranced the world. Tall, with a strong jaw and deep, husky voice, Garbo did not fit the typical dainty starlet mold. On screen, she could convey intense femininity, yet there was a masculine energy coiled within her presence. Off-screen, she often dressed in slacks, button-down shirts, and loafers. Mannish suits, shirts, and ties filled Garbo's closet, one account notes. She even referred to herself in masculine terms, jokingly signing letters as Harry Boy and calling herself a fellow among friends. In the gender-rigid 1930s, such behavior was practically incendiary. Naturally, Hollywood gossips whispered, was Garbo not just eccentric, but hiding a more fundamental secret about her sex? The speculation had plenty of fuel. Garbo never married, nor had children. She kept intimate relationships private, though it later emerged she had passionate affairs with women. In her films, Garbo sometimes blurred gender. Most notably as Queen Christina, she cross-dresses as a man and carries an ambiguous, gender-bending aura. Audiences were tantalized by her sphinx-like persona. She was androgynous, and that didn't appeal. Women liked her, men hated her, quipped author Gore Vidal. To a public used to traditional feminine stars, Garbo's androgyny was both alluring and unsettling. Could she possibly have been born male? The notion was extreme, but so was Garbo's singular image. Some mid-century conspiracy theorists, long before the Internet's transvestigation crowd, latched onto Garbo as a candidate. They pointed to her height, her broad shoulders, her confident stride that screamed independence. She carried herself with a regal, almost gender-neutral elegance. Photographs of Garbo strolling in trousers, with a trench coat collar turned up and hat pulled low, could easily be mistaken for a handsome young man of the era. She made no effort to play the Hollywood game of domestic bliss. She didn't cultivate a feminine public image off-set, which was virtually required of actresses then. Instead, she lived alone in New York in later years, avoiding reporters and fueling the mystique. A 1930s French journalist, upon seeing Garbo in slacks on the streets of Paris, facetiously wondered if Monsieur Garbo had arrived. The Paris chief of police even warned that if Garbo wore trousers in public there, she could be arrested under an old law, banning cross-dressing. So sensational were her simple fashion choices. Garbo's refusal to adhere to norms enhanced her legend. She was a new kind of star, tall, thin, and androgynous, displacing the petite, simpering heroines of earlier years. The studio capitalized on it. MGM publicity both glamorized and obscured her. They nicknamed her the Swedish Sphinx, emphasizing her mystery. Off-screen quirks were left to fan magazine imagination. Readers filled the void with wild fantasies. Some even posited a dark reason for her early retirement at 36. Did Garbo withdraw from films before a masculine truth became too evident with age? It was idle gossip, but in a town built on illusion, anything seemed possible. In reality, Garbo likely suffered from social anxiety and simply valued privacy, but the mystique of her hidden self became an integral part of her appeal. One biographer, Lois Banner, noted that Garbo would often socialize with a circle of lesbian and gay friends, and that she let her boy out of the box in roles and private moments. The line between her true self and the image was blurry. The public only saw hints. An unguarded snapshot of Garbo in men's pajamas on a hotel balcony, for instance, set off a wave of chatter. In our story, blending fact and rumor, Garbo stands as the ultimate gender enigma of the Golden Age. Was she secretly a man? Almost certainly not. But she embodied both feminine and masculine qualities so fully that people believed anything about her. As columnist Hedda Hopper wrote, Garbo gives you the impression she knows a secret the rest of us can't fathom. Perhaps that secret was simply that gender could be performed, put on and off like one of her tailored jackets. Garbo's career blazed brightly on the strength of that intrigue. In the process, she became an unwitting queer icon, her hidden life adding to the allure that still surrounds her name. 7. Marlene Dietrich. When Marlene Dietrich sauntered on stage in a white tuxedo and top hat in the 1930 film Morocco, then kissed a woman full on the lips, she shattered Hollywood's gender norms in one swoop. Audiences gasped, and an icon of androgyny was born. Dietrich reveled in blurring the lines. On screen and off, she cultivated an image as the seductive and boyish queen of androgyny. She famously quipped, "I am at heart a gentleman." Indeed, Marlene's playful ambiguity sparked many rumors. Studio PR spun it as European sophistication, but some conservative whispers went further. Was Marlene Dietrich actually a man in disguise? Such murmurs were fringe, yet they dogged her throughout her career, a testament to how boldly she transgressed gender expectations. Dietrich certainly did things no other actress would dare in that era. In 1933, she turned heads and made headlines by wearing a custom-fitted men's suit in public while traveling. The city of Paris even threatened to arrest her for wearing trousers on the streets. At that time, an old bylaw technically forbade women from donning men's attire. Marlene flouted the warning, striding through Paris in a tailored pantsuit and causing a sensation. Newspapers gleefully reported that the prefect of police had declared Dietrich would risk arrest if she wears her trousers around the capital. She was photographed at a train station, looking unfazed as gendarmes eyed her manly outfit. It was likely a publicity stunt, but it cemented her rep as a gender outlaw. Throughout the 1930s, Dietrich's personal style remained defiantly androgynous. She'd attend Hollywood parties in a tuxedo or military jacket, her hair slicked back, exuding male confidence. Yet in the next breath, she could appear in feathered gowns and be every inch the glamorous woman. This duality fascinated the public. One film magazine in 1932 mused, "Is Marlene a siren or a sir?" half-jokingly. Such quips only fanned the flames of speculation. In reality, Dietrich identified as a woman, but a woman who refused to be boxed in. She was openly bisexual, having affairs with men and women. The Hollywood establishment hid her same-sex dalliances, but fans sensed an air of sexual freedom around her. Off-screen, rumors of her lesbian affairs contributed to the mystery of these aloof, heavily accented trouser-clad stars like Dietrich and Garbo. Marlene herself enjoyed keeping audiences guessing. She'd famously tell journalists contradictory stories, one day claiming to be devoutly domestic, the next day spinning a tale of an amorous adventure with a famous woman, leaving everyone unsure of what to believe. Why would Dietrich toy with gender so boldly? Partly, it was a savvy career move. The shock value made her memorable. She once said, "I dress for the image. Not for myself, not for the public, not for fashion, not for men." That image, the gender-bending vamp, set her apart from every other actress. It gave her control in a male-dominated industry. Dressed like a man, Dietrich often outshone the men. Studios even had to soften some of her films for American censors. But the intrigue it generated was priceless. Moviegoers flocked to see what boundary she'd push next. Still, Dietrich's flirtation with masculinity also carried personal significance. She once remarked that as a child she wished she'd been a boy. She enjoyed traditionally male hobbies like boxing and fixing gadgets. In private letters, she occasionally referred to herself with tongue-in-cheek maleness. She understood that gender is performance, a lesson she executed with surgical precision. Small wonder that decades later, modern transvestigators hold her up as an early example of a celebrity who defied gender norms. In one contemporary analysis, a critic noted Dietrich's gender-bending fueled rumors about her true identity. Certainly by living as she did, Marlene made it easier for outrageous theories to arise. If any Golden Age star could conceivably have secretly been born male, conspiracists would pick Dietrich. Given her bold male attire, it almost seemed she was telling us something. In the end, Marlene Dietrich's legacy is that of a trailblazer who owned her ambiguity. She remained hugely successful, proving that bending gender could be a career boon, not a bane. Her films like Blonde Venus and Shanghai Express were hits in part due to her unique allure. Public fascination with her mystery was constantly stoked by images of her in top hat and tails, or anecdotes of her wowing Allied troops in World War II by showing a lot of leg one night and wearing a soldier's uniform the next. Fact and fiction fused into the Dietrich legend. To this day, she stands as a symbol of classic Hollywood's secret subversions. The possibility that under the makeup and costume, your favorite female star might just be enjoying the irony of passing in plain sight. 8. Joan Crawford. Joan Crawford's large, penetrating eyes and bold personality made her one of Hollywood's defining leading ladies. But those same qualities, her commanding presence, athletic build, and intense ambition, also fed salacious rumors that followed her for decades. In an industry that prized demure, dainty femininity, Joan Crawford was a different breed. Brash, ballsy, and not about to play second fiddle to any man. She rose from flapper dances in speakeasies to become an Oscar-winning actress, all the while tightly controlling her image. Perhaps too tightly, gossips mused. Could it be that Joan's drive to control every photo and every detail of her life was because she had something enormous to hide, like the very fact of her womanhood? It sounds far-fetched, but in the shadowy corners of Hollywood whisper networks, some claimed that Joan Crawford had been born male and reinvented. The mainstream press never printed such an inflammatory suggestion, but hints of something clandestine in her past were planted early and often. Joan's background was certainly shrouded in a bit of myth-making. She claimed a birth date that trimmed a few years off her age and a genteel Southern lineage that was partly concocted. In truth, she was born Lucille LeSueur in Texas and had a rough-and-tumble upbringing. In her chorus girl days, she was known for dancing in male drag for certain numbers, a little-known fact that later conspiracy theorists would seize upon. The studio, in renaming her Joan Crawford and launching her as an ingenue, buried those early cross-dressed performances. But Joan never entirely shed her tomboy streak. She was athletic, an avid weightlifter, and often took on roles that showcased her physical prowess. She had a strong jawline and broad shoulders that her costume designers softened with signature padded shoulder dresses. Ironically, those stylish shoulder pads, meant to feminize her proportions, later struck skeptics as an attempt to hide masculine traits. Whisperers would point, "Notice how broad Joan's shoulders are? Like a quarterback." And the seed of doubt was planted. Crawford's personal life gave gossip mongers more fodder. She married 4 times, yet had no biological children, instead adopting 4 kids. In that pre-IVF era, some took infertility as a possible sign of manhood. Unkind rumors suggested her adoptions were a cover for being unable to bear kids because she was actually a man. Of course, there were plenty of other explanations. But 1940s, Hollywood loved whisper campaigns. Meanwhile, Joan's close relationships with several women in her circle did not go unnoticed. She was part of Hollywood's secret sewing circle of bisexual and lesbian actresses. The Guardian notes that stars like Tallulah Bankhead, Louise Brooks, Barbara Stanwyck, and Joan Crawford were known to have same-sex flings in those days. One persistent story had Joan engaging in an affair with Marilyn Monroe in the early 1950s. Though Monroe later laughed it off, the tale made the rounds in gay Hollywood circles. If Joan was making love to women, the leap to maybe she is a man wasn't logical, but it was titillating enough for rumor mills. Why would Joan change gender if she had? The speculative answer: to break into the pictures. The real Lucille Lesueur might have been a young man who discovered he could dance in drag and, with a few surgeries and falsified documents, become a new woman in the big city. It's the stuff of a pulpy novel. Indeed, it resembles the plot of a notorious Hollywood urban legend about a gender-swap star. And Joan's relentless self-reinvention fits the pattern of someone guarding a grand secret. She famously said, "If you want to see the girl next door, go next door. I'm playing abroad." She cultivated an ultra-feminine on-screen persona: glamorous gowns, perfect coiffures, a face often filmed in gauzy close-up. Off-screen, however, Joan was not afraid to show her tough side. She'd scrub floors to prove a point, or pose with her much younger male co-stars with a kind of dominating air. People who didn't like her started to claim there was something unfeminine, even predatory, about her. In the documentary tone of our tale, one can imagine a gravelly narrator intoning, "Joan Crawford. Was she Hollywood's ultimate self-made woman? Or not a woman at all?" It's a provocative question that has kept her legend alive. Joan's career was undeniably helped, not hurt, by her ambiguous aura. She retained her stardom for decades, morphing from jazz-age flapper to 1940s melodrama queen to even a 1960s horror maven. Each reinvention invited curiosity about the real Joan. The public fascination soared after her death, when her daughter's memoir, Mommy Dearest, painted her as a masculine, domineering figure wielding axes and shouting, "No wire hangers." The caricature of Crawford as a deranged, almost manly authority only further blurred lines. Today, few seriously think Joan Crawford was male, but the fact that such rumors existed underscores how powerfully she projected strength in a time when actresses were expected to be soft. In that sense, Joan's mystique, part fact and part fiction, solidified her as one of Hollywood's most formidable and fascinating figures. The truth may be simpler, but the legend of Joan Crawford, the star who might have had something extra, endures in the halls of Hollywood Babylon. 9. Barbara Stanwyck. Nobody messed with Barbara Stanwyck. On screen, she could play the sultry femme fatale or the rugged ranch owner with equal credibility. Off-screen, her no-nonsense, straight-talking persona earned her the nickname Missy among friends, a kind of honorary tomboy title. In an era of frills and frou-frou, Stanwyck sported an understated style: tailored suits, minimal fuss, and a confident gait. She did her own stunts and had a husky voice that conveyed authority. Naturally, Hollywood wags quietly speculated about this self-made woman. Could Barbara Stanwyck have started life as a boy? She was another star who never bore children and who kept her private life intensely private. Moreover, she was rumored to have intimate relationships with women, including a long friendship with actress Barbara Pepper that some alleged was more than platonic. To gossip columnists hungry for scandal, it all added up to tantalizing possibility. Stanwyck's early life was indeed unusual for a starlet. Born Ruby Stevens in Brooklyn, she was orphaned young and raised in foster homes. She was scrappy and independent from the start, a chorus dancer by 15, forging her own path. In those teenage years on Broadway, she pawed around with gay performers and even learned the art of disguise. One anecdote tells of Ruby dressing as a boy to sneak into speakeasies without harassment. By the time Hollywood called in the late 1920s, she had a worldly toughness. The studio rechristened her Barbara Stanwyck, but they couldn't smooth out her rough edges completely. She often played strong women who, if not literally in male roles, carried masculine-coded traits: ambition, anger, sexual aggressiveness. In Ball of Fire, She played a brassy nightclub singer who holds her own among a bunch of professors. In Annie Oakley, she wore buckskins and sharpshooter gear convincingly. She could throw a punch on camera and make you believe it. For a populace used to demure ladies, Stanwyck was a revelation. Still, in the ultra-conservative climate of mid-century, a woman of such grit drew suspicions. She divorced twice, and insiders whispered it was because neither marriage could hide her other interests. Indeed, Barbara was part of Hollywood's Lavender Network, friends with known lesbians like Tallulah Bankhead, and reportedly engaging in sewing circle trysts herself. Magazines at the time never outed her, but confidential whispers linked Stanwyck and Crawford as secretly amorous. To those bent on conspiracy, a woman who loves women and shirks traditional womanly roles might as well be a man. A scurrilous rumor emerged that Stanwyck's deep secret was a male anatomy. Some pointed to her athletic build. She was an avid rider, and her legs were insured for a fortune due to her stunting. "Too muscular for a gal," one detractor said snidely. Others noted her preference for being addressed as Stanwyck rather than Barbara. Of course, these theories were never substantiated. By all evidence, Barbara was a cisgender woman, just one far ahead of her time in eschewing gender norms. Did her androgynous aura help her career? Undoubtedly. She had one of the longest runs in Hollywood, from pre-code vamp to 1960s TV matriarch, precisely because she wasn't pigeonholed. Directors knew she could bring a toughness or a vulnerability as needed. The public, meanwhile, was intrigued by her off-screen mystique. She kept interviews curt and guarded, fueling the sense that something was under the surface. Unlike some peers, she didn't cultivate a motherly or sex kitten image in fan magazines. She cultivated respect. It's telling that when Confidential magazine, notorious for outing stars' secrets, wrote about Stanwyck in 1955, they implied she was caught in a gay embrace at a party, but stopped short of naming her. Even scandal rags tread lightly, perhaps intimidated by her clout. So the rumors bubbled mostly underground. But they never quite died. Even into the 21st century, some fringe forums discuss Stanwyck as a possible trans man, citing her strong features and reclusive retirement. It is highly doubtful. She had childhood girlfriends who later attested to her female development, and she did adopt a son, showing maternal side. But in the spirit of this documentary-style tale, Barbara Stanwyck deserves a place among Golden Age celebrities whose gender identity became a matter of public fascination. She embodied a kind of gender fluidity that was rare then. As one LGBTQ historian put it, Barbara Stanwyck lived a double life, screen siren by day, riding pants and cigarettes by night. The truth may be that she was simply a lesbian or bisexual woman with a tough exterior. But the mystery, that tantalizing what-if, clings to her legacy. And through it all, Stanwyck remained unapologetically herself, declaring in one of her final interviews, "I've been told I'm a very masculine woman. Well, if that means I know what I want and go after it, I'll take it." That quote could easily be the credo of any trans trailblazer. Perhaps unknowingly, Stanwyck paved the way for a broader view of womanhood, one that could include wearing the pants, literally and figuratively. 10. Tallulah Bankhead. The very name Tallulah Bankhead conjures up images of decadence and devil-may-care flamboyance. An Alabama-born actress with a whiskey-soaked voice, Tallulah became infamous for her partying, her bonnes mots, and her brazen sexuality. During Hollywood's golden years, she was openly bisexual and utterly unashamed. Tallulah bragged about seducing both sexes. She'd call herself ambisextress, with a throaty laugh, and she dressed and acted however she pleased. She'd show up to formal events in a tailored suit one day, or wearing no underwear beneath a satin gown the next. Is it any wonder that whispers circulated about this uninhibited star? Some claimed that such a wild, unfettered soul must not be a real woman at all. Could Tallulah Bankhead have been born male? It seems implausible. But then again, every aspect of Tallulah's life was implausible by conventional standards. In the staid 1930s, Bankhead was a tornado of transgression. She smoked cigars, swore like a sailor, and was famously quoted as saying, "I'm as pure as the driven slush." She had a notably deep, raspy voice, partly from hard living, that led one critic to joke she sounded like a man impersonating a woman. On stage, she had no qualms playing gender-bending roles. In the 1920s London theatre scene, she would sometimes don male drag in nightclub skits for fun. Offstage, she was known to skinny dip with both male and female friends at Hollywood parties, unconcerned with modesty. This devil-may-care attitude extended to her view of gender roles. She found them boring. Tallulah once hosted a scandalous party where all guests had to cross-dress, herself included. Such antics inevitably fueled rumors. A particularly outrageous one suggested that Bankhead's notorious fertility issues were because she was actually a man, and something went wrong down there. Of course, it was baseless slander, but Tallulah almost would have enjoyed it. She loved any reputation that kept her talked about. Society's pressures slid off Tallulah like water off a duck's back. When the Hays Code censorship was cracking down on gay content, Tallulah was winking at it, playing a queer-coded character in Lifetime of Trouble, or flirting openly with Marlene Dietrich at parties. In private correspondence, playwright Tennessee Williams called her an anatomical epicene, basically saying she embodied both male and female principles. Indeed,